Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left, I think. So, any more questions?
I have a quick question about viewing perspective. What's the feeling about viewing perspective right now on these type of displays?
How do you mean feeling for viewing perspective?
We all get the same viewpoint, right? It's single viewpoint, one perspective, 3D. So it's not very collaborative. We can't both see into the box from our seats, so to speak, right? So what's people's feelings on this right now?
Well, if you go to the cinema and you watch a movie in 3D,
that's different from a game,
okay.
Where you actually move around, right?
Okay, I'm going to get to that. Because maybe it's easier to explain in terms of cinema.
Sure.
The best place to sit is kind of in the middle, about 2/3 of the way back. But you don't have to sit exactly in the middle. There's a pretty wide sweet spot. Where you don't want to be is right down at the front in the corner. And it's kind of the same in the living room with a TV like this. The viewing angle is pretty good, it's pretty wide. But again, you don't want to be sitting too close.
But so the thing is that going to detract from the adoption of 3D stereo? I mean, is there a problem or a complaint you guys are hearing about that you're having to deal with? Perspective issues?
Well, there's always going to be some people who have tiny little rooms and buy gigantic TVs. And at Sony, one of the things we're strongly pushing, I mean, we're not mandating it, we're strongly pushing is a 3D strength slider. So that if the 3D is too much for your room, you can just dial it down a notch.
I mean, you can also, it's a solvable problem too, I think for video games, at least for single player video games, where you could do tracking, right, to solve that problem. We had shown a demo earlier about moving eye point tracking in our talk earlier today, where if you can track the person, you can really make it feel a lot more concrete. You know, you don't have the floaty parallax problem, right? It looks like a real 3D object that's in your screen. So I think there's probably some future in that work.
Is maybe what you're asking, is there a paradigm shift with 3D, meaning is instead of one person always sitting perpendicular to the TV, that maybe it's, the paradigm would be different, that it's more of an immersive, multiplayer, different view?
Guess from my point of view, the box here, the positive space is actually going here, but I'm actually got a...
the perspective's not correct.
The perspective's not probably correct. I have a slanted...
It's probably best to generally view a TV normally, not side on. I'm looking at it at a quite sharp angle.
I agree. I'm just asking if that's a complaint you guys are having to deal with. That it's a problem that you're going to have to solve. Head tracking, of course.
I actually look at it more as an opportunity, and I know where you're going with this one. I mean, there's definitely an opportunity that with newer technology, that there are opportunities to do even more immersive. I mean, I always see this when people walk up to a 3D TV. They don't realize it's an optical illusion, but the first thing they do is they put on the glasses and they move back and forth like this. They go, wow, look, it's tracking me. It's like, no, it's not. It's just an optical illusion. It's like those old, relief statues you used to see where you thought, look, the eyes are following me, and they're really not. It's an optical illusion. So I think to your point is there are certainly levels of immersion where we haven't gone to yet, and there are things that I know Nvidia as a technology company, we're looking at other ways to enhance the experience where the idea of saying walking up to a display and saying, hey, I want to look around this corner, as opposed to pushing a button, maybe just go like that, and then you look around the corner. So there are things that you can do, and there are ways that you can look at that and add to the level of immersion that is there today.
I mean, head tracking definitely improves the reality of 3D. You would just need cameras on your console, but that's lucky because I think they will get in them. So I'm sure we'll see some moves in that. So I'm trying to wrap this up. In 5 years, each of you, what would you hope to have accomplished sort of in the 3D world or been accomplished within the 3D gaming world in 5 years' time? Who wants to go first? Neil, go for it.
Okay.
In 5 years' time.
Well, I'd like to see some consistency. I mean, if you read media coverage of stereoscopic 3D versus game certification versus game development, there's absolutely no consistency. Nobody's on the same page as to what to visually expect from the game. Not the consumer, not the game developer, not the media. there has to be, everyone has to be on the same page as to what's a comfortable game in 3D, what the visual expectations should be, and everyone should understand the same language and speak the same language. When we're at that stage, it will definitely be a mass market technology that's here to stay. And I would hope that it's not going to take 5 years. I have shorter term plans than that.
Okay.
But nonetheless, that's what I would envision as being a success.
Okay. I have to say, actually, I shouldn't butt in at this point, but I mean, good old Sony here. I mean, I'm a game developer and I wrote lots of games on the PlayStation, but one of the big things that Sony came in was their certification. It was a big deal that the PlayStation and Sony pretty much pushed everyone into 3D and gave us a pretty raw grilling when we didn't do it properly. At the time, the developers, there was a bit, we didn't like it, but it did sort it out, and the PlayStation became famous for having all these great 3D games. So Keith?
5 years, that we could ship a version of Toy Story Mania that runs in your house and does look like the attraction, as opposed to the ones that are currently available. It'd be nice to have enough proliferation that you can, with confidence, say, yeah, from the ground up, our games in 5 years are designed to be 3D. Beyond that, hopefully we'll have shipped something that way. That's about all I've done.
Our goal, I think, is a lot of what Neil said about getting every developer thinking about 3D. It's getting better, but having game developers, the fact that we have to have a conference today to hopefully encourage you 3D is a very positive thing. But in 5 years' time, I would hope we wouldn't have to have a conference. You guys would just do it, and it would be great. I think that's one goal. I think the second goal, as Keith said, is hardware. I mean, today we're pushing out. We sell 100 and some odd million GPUs a year. Not every single one of them is going to be great for a perfect 3D experience. I think in 5 years' time, I think our goal would be is that every platform we sell, which is our graphics processors, but also our handheld chips and everything we build, is already 3D capable. We work with the display partners as well. We would hope that it just becomes a standard as well, that all their displays they're built in 3D. And it's no longer, it becomes less so about, a user going out there and trying to decide, do I have all the pieces that are ready for 3D? But it's more about what game do I want to play in 3D later, right? That my ideal scenario, actually, I'll summarize it in a different way. My ideal scenario in 5 years is that I log into Steam and I just say, I want to play that game in 3D, click. Or I go to my PlayStation 3 and say, I want to play that game, it's in 3D. So I know
PlayStation 3 in 5 years' time?
PlayStation 3 in 5 years' time.
Okay.
Hopefully in 5 years' time we'll all be playing 3D games, and it won't even be a question of whether a game's going to come out in 3D or not. They'll all be coming out in 3D. But maybe we'll be doing head tracking and trying to support Sony's new 18-foot parabolic screens or something like that. That's probably where we'll be in 5 years' time.
I just had one last thought, and that is, so if in a conference in 5 years' time there's no point in even having talk on 3D because it's a given, what will be the next revolution in graphics? 4D holographic.
Well, I wouldn't scoff at that idea, right? I think that if you look at everything we're doing, and 3D is a natural evolution of what we had, right? Everyone up here is a game developer, and everyone out there knows is your games are already 3D, right? In the sense that you're developing it in OpenGL, DirectX, or whatever lower level program you're working in, Xbox OS or DirectX or whatever it is. And you're already developing it in 3D, right? You've got Z information, you've got all this lighting and shading. 3D is just the next evolution of that. Now it's taking all of the beautiful artistic renderings you created and making it look in 3D. The next step maybe after that, no joking aside, what you guys were saying is, maybe you say, well, wait a minute. Now I'm in my car, I want to look to my left and see what's over there. So maybe there's a head tracking capability. Maybe there's a larger screen built into it. There's lots of levels of go with the immersion, and it's really the sky's the limit, right? It's what do the game developers from a creativity standpoint, what do you want to do, right? Our company, we don't really position ourselves as a graphics processor. We like to think of ourselves as visual computing. So oftentimes the best ideas are the software developers who come to us and say, what if you could do this, or what if you could do that? That's where the ideas spark from. So if you got any great ideas, I'm up here. I'll give you my card. I'd love to talk to you.
So I think I'm just about out of time, but I think 3D gaming is here to stay. Hopefully you all agree that, and that it's not a gimmick. we've just got to make sure that all developers make decent games and the market is educated, and we get the TVs and the consoles and everything doing really, really good 3D. So thank you very much.